How little do we know today, Mike?
These mock drafts just make me laugh because I think we got a lot of good information in that show last night. But if I went 0 for 32, it really wouldn't surprise me, and that starts with Cleveland.
All right, do you know what Cleveland – okay, what should Cleveland do? What should they do?
I think they shouldn't hesitate and go up and hand in Myles Garrett. And I think that should be the pick. But I think what happens, Dan, is they kind of compounded a mistake from last year.
Yeah.
I thought Carson Wentz was the easiest evaluation of any quarterback I've done since Andrew Luck. And they traded that pick to the Eagles for draft picks. And I get it, but now, you're still looking for a quarterback, and you're talking about, can I get him, do you use the first pick? Do you use the 12th pick? Do you trade up from 12 to go get Mitchell Trubisky, who in my evaluation, I'll first want to say I could be wrong, but I think Wentz is a franchise quarterback, and Trubisky, there's nothing but question marks.
It feels like the Browns are going to go all in on Mitchell Trubisky because they feel like they could lose out on him. I don't know. It's just a weird feeling, but it's the Browns, Mike, and you're just not quite sure. Even though we've changed the front office there, it just feels like there's this cloud over the Browns that says, hey, if you think you know what we're going to do, you're wrong.
Well, they've gone all in on, the analytic group. I don't know if there's split opinion in that building with the quote football guys, starting with Hugh Jackson and his staff. But I know what they're trying to do with stockpiling draft picks, which typically is a great way to go about the draft. It just makes the odds better. But if you're staring a franchise quarterback in the face like Carson Wentz, you just got to pull the trigger. You don't have to be smarter than everybody. Just pull the trigger.
Finish this sentence. If the Browns take Mitchell Trubisky number 1 overall,
he better frickin' be a good quarterback for the next 8-10 years and win a lot of frickin' football games.
Give me the first Pro Bowl player out of this draft, the guy who's a Pro Bowler, the highest draft pick who's going to be a Pro Bowler.
That's a good question. I think Solomon Thomas from Stanford can be a Pro Bowler very quickly because I think he's a little bit like an Aaron Donald. And remember, 70% of the time defenses are in sub packages, and that's where he's going to do his damage. So I think Solomon Thomas would be really interesting pick right there.
But he's not going to be the number 1 pick in the draft.
No. How about that? By the way, the number 1 pick in the draft, if he doesn't get hurt and cares enough to work his tail off, he could be as special as any edge rusher we have in this draft. In this league, not this draft.
Is it similar to Clowney?
His numbers are very similar to Clowney, and you could make the same conversation about his tape. Was his tape always consistent? And I would say that he played through a high ankle sprain this year, which I give him credit for. So you didn't always see the explosion and the physicality that he has. The first game of the year was against UCLA when he was healthy, and he absolutely destroyed that team. He took a left tackle that's going to get drafted this weekend and knocked him from the second or third round into the 6th round in one day.
The quarterback with the most red flags is who?
All of them. I can't bang the table for any of them, Dan. I mean, even the high-level guys. Deshaun Watson has 17 interceptions on a national championship team, and I love Deshaun Watson. Mitch Trubisky, 13 starts. Mahomes is like Brett Favre. Something really, really good is going to happen or really, really bad, and it's going to happen every snap. Kaiser's got all the talent in the world, but he's a long way away, I think, from playing. And I can go right down the list of these quarterbacks that way.
But I still
let me give you one thing. Let me give you one thing on quarterbacks you might like. Okay.
Yeah.
There's been 26 first-round quarterbacks in the last 10 years. Forget the last 2 years because it's too early. But in the previous 8 before that, 21. Out of the 21, there's 4 that are franchise quarterbacks: Matt Ryan, Stafford, Newton, and Luck. There are 8 that are out of the league. So you're twice as likely to draft a first-round quarterback that's going to be out of the league in the next 5 years than you are to get a franchise quarterback.
And I know that's where you get your franchise quarterback. It's hard to get them in free agency. But I don't like a philosophy when you say we got to go get our quarterback. I want to get the quarterback, not a quarterback. And it feels like that's the philosophy that we still see sometimes with these teams. They get nervous, and we got to go get a quarterback here. Cleveland needs a quarterback, but are they going to get the right quarterback? That's what scares me here.
Academically, I'm with you, but it's a catch-22 situation because the way the GMs and the head coaches feel is there's only about 10 or 11 franchise quarterbacks in the world. And if you don't have one of them, you're just a day closer to getting fired.
Yep.
So all these head coaches and GMs are sitting in rooms going, man, we got to get one. And they artificially push these guys up draft boards hoping he's the guy. And unfortunately, as all the statistics bear out, the further you reach, the least realistic are that you're going to get the right guy. And my philosophy is what you just said, which is just keep drafting good football players, and you got to take some swings at quarterback. If you look at Seattle, they signed Matt Flynn to big numbers thinking he was going to be their guy, and in that same draft, they got Russell Wilson in the third round. So you got to keep swinging, but, man, the odds are against you.
Who do you like more, Fournette or McCaffrey? Granted, different styles, depending on what team takes them, but if you were going to say that guy will be a Pro Bowl player first, Fournette or McCaffrey?
Yeah, I hate those questions, Dan. I mean, he puts in a vacuum. Which guy's going to? It depends on where they go, and they're both. Fournette is old school Adrian Peterson.
All right, well then where should they go? Let's put them in the ideal spot, and then who's a Pro Bowl player? How's that?
If you draft Fournette, you've got to commit philosophically to the run game, just like Dallas did and like Tennessee does with DeMarco Murray. If Jacksonville takes him at 4, they're going to commit to a run game and give him 20 to 30 touches a game and take the pressure off Blake Bortles. Now, if Carolina takes McCaffrey at 8, just to pick a team, I think he'd be great in Philly at 14. But if Carolina takes him at 8, he can take the pressure off Cam Newton in a completely different way. He can line up at tailback and get 12 to 15 touches. He can line up at slot. He can line up at wide receiver. But the key is you got to take the pressure. Cam Newton has been getting hit way too often. The pressure of the run game has been on him. So whether you plug McCaffrey at Carolina or Fournette in Jacksonville, both teams get better in a completely different way.
Any cliches? Any new cliches that we can keep an eye on? You gave us Wastebender a couple of years ago. Is there anything else?
You get a million of them. I mean, but if you want to criticize that first pick of the draft, Myles Garrett, you can question whether or not he's a glass eater.
A glass eater?
Yeah.
What's that?
Somebody just is the toughest son of a gun in the room, that cares more than anybody else, loves the game of football with a passion.
I like that, a glass eater. I got a couple other ones here. What do you think of hip thruster? That could get you arrested, couldn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's not on late night television in your hotel room.
Oh, yeah. Have you ever used lunch pail guy?
Yeah. Lunch pail guy is a hard worker. Jag is just a guy. There's all kinds of variations.
How about a brunch pail guy? Because I like a guy who's prepared to do brunch or lunch more than I do just, a lunch pail guy. Like, this guy's versatile.
I think that's a question for either the tennis or pro golf tour.
How about a vaulted ceiling, not a high ceiling? I'm sorry, Mike. I shouldn't.
You've had about enough of it too, haven't you?
I would like to know, instead of deceptive speed, does somebody actually try to hide their speed? Like McCaffrey has deceptive speed. Is he trying to hide his speed?
I'll tell you what McCaffrey does is he's got the best patience since Le'Veon Bell as far as just taking his time, finding a hole and hitting it. And here's what people don't understand about McCaffrey. He's every bit the athlete that LaShawn McCoy is. All the measurables, everything you want to line him up. I love LaShawn McCoy. McCaffrey's just as fast. He's the same size. All his numbers are as good or better, and people don't want to believe it.
Mike, have fun tonight. We'll be watching, and I enjoyed the mock draft last night.
Thanks, man. 0 for 32.
All right, that's Mike Mayock, NFL Network analyst. He might go 0 for 32, but that doesn't mean he's wrong.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.